Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome again to another edition of Collections and Connections. I am excited to be here with you. I'm your host, Lachelle Atkins, also known as America's Supermom. I'm the mother of 15 children, and I am a vitality coach. And I help professionals navigate through the chaos of everyday life, the ups and downs of burnout, depression, anxiety, and transform that into clarity and confidence with a smile. So I'm excited to be here with you and take you on this journey of books. This is really a time that I dedicate to reading, right? I love reading, I love books, but all of these books that are mentioned, you can usually find on Amazon. I do have one that is a preview that I'm going to discuss today. So I'm not sure if you can get it on Amazon or not, actually. But this has really been helping me go through all these books that I have. These are things from my personal library, and it's reminding me what I have and really some great, great stuff. So, before I get started, I want to highlight this is a book that I talked about earlier. I don't know if it was last week or I think it was last week because I actually had a connection call with someone that I have been connected to for about 6 months. But we had our first Zoom call and we were talking. This book came up, and I happened to have it right next to me on my desk. And it was one that I have intended to read, but just never got started. So it's The Untethered Soul and The Journey Beyond Yourself. This is a great book. I'm really enjoying it. So I'm only on chapter 3, and I have a meeting again with the connection who encouraged me to read this book. And so I have a meeting today, and I'm going to try to read some more of this book because the goal was to have a lot of it read before we met again so that we can discuss it. But it's so good. It's so good. So that's just something I want to highlight. So the first book I'm going to talk about is one that I had heard about from a mutual connection, but it just didn't really register. There's nothing like being in the moment. Okay, so I'll explain what I'm talking about. So this book is How Money Works for Women. It's by Sharon Lecter and Kim Schuler, and or Schooler, I think is how you say it. Um, but I happened to be invited to the pre-launch of this book on Friday, and I really, really had a great time at this event. I was able to see Sharon Lecter um, in person. However, I didn't get a chance to connect with her, but I was able to meet the co author and the founder and CEO of the company, uh, Tom Matthews. And so this is really a great, great movement. It really goes beyond a book because this company is Wealth Wave, and they have a book that they usually give out, How Money Works. It just explains the whole process for a lot of people, helping them to be financially literate. So, one of the things that they are really pushing now is how money works for women because there's not a lot of women financial advisors. And with the statistics that they anticipate women to outlive their spouses. So, when they outlive their spouses, it's important for them to know about money so that they're able to continue to survive and make wise decisions. And not only that, if they are outliving their spouses, they usually want to talk to another woman when it comes to talking to a financial advisor. And there's not a lot of financial advisor women. Now, the numbers are increasing, but just it's very out of balance. Good morning, Mary. It's so good to see you this morning. So, this is really a movement. I was able to get a pre launch copy, and this book is going to be out in July. So, with that being said, I'm not sure if this is on Amazon or not, but you'll be hearing more from me about this book because it is important. I have 9 daughters, and I want to make sure that they are financially literate because it really can impact the quality of life that you have. So that is how money works for women. The next book is, and it's like Christmas finding these books, right? As I'm going through everything. All right. So this one is Donald Miller, What I Learned While Editing My Life, A Million Miles in 1,000 Years. Okay. So many things about editing your life, um, recreating, designing. I mean, we really have the power to do this. And, it's so funny that a lot of these books are really just continuing to bring that up. These are some of the things or the people that I listen to. So, I would hear podcasts and they would be interviewed and they would talk about some of the writings and the names would be familiar. And then when I would go to bookstores or thrift stores or anywhere where there's books, I just gravitated over there and then I would see those names and grab the book. All right. So Donald Miller is the author, and he is the founder of the Mentoring Project and serves on President Barack Obama's task force on fatherhood and healthy families. He lives and works in Portland, Oregon. Okay, so that is his story. All right. Now, I'm going to come in here to negative terms, is what I just opened this up to. So I tried to get this set up ahead of time, but in transparency, woke up and was dragging out of bed this morning because my kids have been up all night on like this video game marathon. So I went to sleep early and then I got up, because I had not put my phone on the charger and it's my alarm. And I had my contacts in because I was saying to my husband, he said, I'm going to watch a movie. So I just thought, well, I'm going to read my book and, kind of watch this movie with him. He was asleep. Next thing you know, I turned off the movie and have the book and then I'm asleep. So, but needless to say, I was up like constantly because they would yell and be so excited because somebody made a certain move. It was crazy. But anyway, all right. So I'm going to this part. This is talking about negative turns. This is what happens when my compassion and love leave a place. It is when people do not allow God to show up through them. She realized that the world collapsed in on itself. As Kathy told me the story, I thought about the resistance. I thought about the fear of finding my dad, of talking to the girl, of hiking the Inca Trail, and suddenly the resistance had a darker feel, a thieving feel, as if something tangible and powerful were taking our beautiful stories away. That was just a paragraph. So, this is really sounds like a good book. Okay, because let me just read a little bit more. I kept walking past the sticky note on the kitchen counter. I kept resisting my story. But you can only do that for so long. It's true what Stephen Pressfield says. There is a force resisting the beautiful things in the world, and too many of us are giving in. The world needs for us to have courage. Robert McKee says at the end of his book, the world needs for us to write something better. So, this is really real life, right? This is really what we all struggle with. You have an idea that you want to do something. Next thing you know, you're challenged by it. And, that's kind of like what this untethered soul is about. It talks about how, your mind is constantly talking, right? And it has an answer for everything. And so we wonder why, when we talk to people, why it's so hard to keep our mouth shut, right? Because if you think about it just for yourself, um, I'm going to make my bed up first thing in the morning. Well, maybe I'll go to the restroom first. Well, maybe I should make it up. I mean, you just go back and forth here in these conversations, right? Well, maybe I should put on some lip gloss. No, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Are you going to go back to bed after this? I mean, it's just like a whole conversation. Well, in the book Untethered Soul, it says that if you are observing this, I'm not going to give it away. But anyway, I think we all struggle with this. And so part of it is the idea of understanding that um, love leave a place and compassion leaves a place just by simply us listening to this dialogue sometimes, because sometimes the things that we say in our head are not positive, right? And so we give room for a lot of those beliefs and ideas. And a lot of times, just simply allowing them to hang around is what really allows them to keep growing and infringing on even more things, right? It's something that we are allowing. And so that's the key. We have more power than we give ourselves credit for. But this cycle of, it's kind of like what people say, you can't keep doing the same thing expecting different results, because that's insanity, right? But we kind of get used to it. And so then we believe that it's factual, and so then we minimize the power that we have to really turn the corner and change it. And so I think it's really important to identify that, because we do have the authority and the power to change the narrative, right? We were in a room yesterday on LinkedIn. And so we were talking about vulnerability, and a lot of people came up and just had the idea, well, sometimes you're vulnerable, and people use that against you, or they believe something about you. And I was just expressing, just in my journey, that vulnerability has been a superpower, because the story is going to be told anyway, right? So when we think about our past, and this was something that had me hung up for so long, because it's like, oh my gosh, I was in a behavioral hospital 3 times. What is wrong with me? 13 years, right? And then when I really realized, you know what? That's the past. I can't change it. It's a part of who I am. I began to embrace that story. However, it had a different look for me, because I was able to take the lessons that I learned and turn them into boundaries, right? Certain things that when they were a trigger, then I can learn how to have a boundary around it, so that I would not allow it to draw me back into that same life. Now, the thing about vulnerability is, it's like being able to tell your side of the story, because everybody has a side, right? My kids are going to have a side, my husband's going to have a side, but nobody has my side. And so I can tell my side the way that I want to do it. It's no different than, we've been on the news several times, and, you have all this footage that they come and do, and then they narrow it down into 3 minutes. So there's going to be some editing, and they're going to edit it to the story that they want to highlight. And so we need to think about, as this book says, editing your story the way that you want to, because nobody needs all the information. It comes out in different times, but you want to edit it to have the narrative that you desire, or whatever you've learned. You get to be the voice for that. So I think that's important to remember. Okay. My monitor is like over here in the corner, y'all. So if I'm looking up, you're like, what is she doing? My husband got me this huge monitor. I love it because he loves buying me things that he enjoys, right? But I'd look at it a different way and say, wow, I'm able to be blessed with what I need before I even know that I need it, right? So that's a great place to be. All right. So Mary says some people always read books, however, the page falls. It's so true. Okay, so lessons mean we grow. My brother just said the same thing yesterday. All right, so we are all on the same synergy, right? I love when that happens when it's a recent conversation because it lets me know that I am on the right um, in the right moment, in the right place, being present with that. Because so often we're distracted. We have 1,000 things that we say in a day, but what really do we remember? And what are we really intentional about? All right. So, does this clutter make my butt look fat? Okay. This is a book that is by Peter Walsh. All right. So he is the organizing guru that was on the Rachel Ray show. He's the one that came to our house, helped us to get organized. He's been on Oprah, I don't know how many times. You guys can look him up. But um, he has so many different insights. I mean, I think I am really excited about ideas and ways to collaborate. I can get on the phone with people and come up with 1,000 ideas, and it's like I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not really prepared. It just comes up. But he's that way with organization. It's like I'm going to give him a hard question. What about if this is going on? And he goes, well, you simply do XYZ. I mean, it's like right off the top of his head. It's amazing. All right. So I need a little bit of more of that in my life. But anyway, I got this book after I met him, even though I used to watch his show. He had this show called Clean Sweep, I think was the name of it. And he would go through the whole process where somebody was moving or they had a lot of clutter. And he would just walk them through the emotional situation, kind of like Marie Kondo, same type of thing. Um, He's from Australia, so hopefully I'll get there. I have a connection named Thomas, and I asked Thomas about him, and Thomas said, I don't know him. So hopefully I can get there one day and meet both of them. But it's so funny how, if you know somebody from a different country, I mean, the country is big. They've got a lot of different places. I think I can't remember if he's from Melbourne or Sydney. I have to ask my daughter because we're trying to see who's going to get there first, even though my son, he's gotten there, but he never connected with Peter. He was doing some other stuff, but that's another thing. All right. So he is talking about um, does clutter make my butt look fat? Okay. So this is some of the things that are going on. I love how people have these engaging titles. You're wondering, what are they talking about? But it encourages you to pick up the book and leave home with it. All right. So I'm going to read what starts. It says, don't pull the trigger. Okay. We search for instant gratification to fill a hole. What is the hole? What is missing from your life that makes you so determined to prove to yourself that what you want can be yours? To break the place trigger, you have to put a new routine in place. The new routine can be food related. Carry a healthy snack and eat it whenever you enter the trigger place. Or it can be activity related. Call a certain friend to stop you from responding to the trigger. In the same way, you need to be mindful of what you put into your body. You need to eat in places that are conducive to good health and healthy choices. Where can you eat and be aware of what you're putting into your body? That's right, at the table, with food that you prepare, fully engage with those around you. When do you eat? Is the time of day a clue to your emotional trigger? Do you have a consistent, reliable schedule, or is every week full of unexpected changes and plans? Do you have fixed meal times, or do you wait until you're starving and then grab the first snack you see? A life in flux makes us seek the stability of comfort foods. Do you snack in mid afternoon? A pick me up is literally that, a desperate attempt to find energy when you have none left. Why are you so depleted? What is running you ragged? Unless you have a physically strenuous job, you shouldn't be so exhausted by mid afternoon that without a candy bar, you won't survive. Are there problems at work that wear you down? Do you eat healthy food all day and then come home to indulge? This is a sign of rewardful food. All right, so this whole, you see how these questions, I mean, a lot of this was just asking questions. And this is where we fail to have the ahas because we don't ask ourselves the hard questions. I was talking to somebody, they had interviewed me one time and they were asking me about, my journey of recovering from depression. And one of the things that really stood out for me was the change from questions to statements. So before, when I was going through this cycle of depression, I was constantly telling myself stuff. You this, do this. It was always just like commands or constant talking. But it wasn't until I had my transformation that I started asking myself questions. And that is when I started thinking differently. When you ask a question, it's like you're directing your mind on what to focus on, right? So it's just like imagine if you're trying to have a surprise party for somebody and they come over and you redirect them, right? You redirect them with a question. Hey, thanks for coming by. Look, things are crazy here. Have you eaten? Let's go get something to eat, right? Or did you finish that project that you were talking about? I was just about to go to the library. You can come with me, right? You just come up with 1,000 things by redirecting, right? And sometimes it's the same for kids, right? You're not quite ready for something that they said you told them you were going to have for them. So they're so excited they come to cash in, so to speak, and you redirect them. Hey, have you cleaned your room or have you done XYZ or something to redirect them? So it's the same thing with our mind. We have to figure out how we can redirect ourselves to get us to the path where we want to be, right? And sometimes I love what he says about, what are you going to put in place to redirect those triggers? Are you going to do an activity? Am I going to do 5 sit-ups before I decide to go in the kitchen and eat something sweet, right? Or am I going to have some snacks that are already pre uh, set out so that if when I do get hungry, I can just go grab that snack? And same thing, even like meal prepping in your refrigerator, having things already set up so that you can have these pre-organized so that when you get into that slump to where maybe you're not making the best decisions, a lot of the work is already done for you. So it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, right? If you have things already organized, when you do get to that space where you feel like you just want to put anything in your mouth, if you have healthy options, you're going to pick what's there, right? And so the key is doing a lot of the work when you're not in that state, right? So it's best for me to possibly keep a list of items that I need to get from the grocery store, keep that list going when I'm not hungry. So, regardless of how hungry I am, sorry about that, have a little net that flew around. Regardless of how hungry I am, I can have that list that I can depend on and I can know what I'm going to get from the store without being led astray by how hungry I am in the moment, right? So, preparation is key. It's important for us to prepare ahead of time what it is that we want to have, see, or do, right? Because a lot of times when you're in the moment, you're not strong enough. There's a lot of things that you're distracted by. And usually it is coming from our emotion. And emotion is good, but emotion can also lead us in a direction that we don't want to go at that time. So we have to make sure that we set ourselves up for success. I tell my daughters all the time, look, you need to figure out what type of person you want to marry. And this can be a guidepost for who you're dating, because we get into these cycles where we're dating people, but that's going to be the pool of people that you're going to be thinking about marrying. It's not like you get into this situation, you're dating somebody, and then magically they're going to transform to the person that you decide that you want to be married to. That's definitely not the way to be. You want to have that set up ahead of time so that you can check and see, is this the person that I even want to spend my time with? Because I was talking to my son yesterday. We had a quick meeting about summer and dates and things that we were doing over the summer to make sure people can take off work and stuff like that. And yesterday he was listening to some crazy music. And so I said, turn that off. And so he was like, we had a discussion about it in the meeting. And I said, you really have to be mindful of what kind of music you're listening to. And so he was like, it just doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. I just like the beat and everything. And I said, well, if you like the beat, why can't you find some music that speaks to you, right? Some music that is more positive, you know, rather than just listening to what's out there. And so he was like, well, I just kind of like the beat. I said, well, do you believe that God is a creator, that he can create something new? And so he said, yeah. And I said, well, then you might need to find some new music, right? It just takes you going that extra mile and looking for it, because those things affect us. It goes into our subconscious mind. So while we think it's not affecting us, that's the biggest um, trick in the book, is you believing that you're stronger than the stuff that you're putting in your head. And it's not even so much, you see, repetition. I could go into a whole thing about that, but repetition is what plants it deeper in our subconscious mind. I still remember songs that I heard when I was like 12, a teenager, because playing it over and over again, it just comes up at random times. I hear a beat and it's like, this is like the beginning of when rap was out. So I just remembered lyrics that it's like, I'm not listening to that stuff today. It has been years ago. I'm 52. So we're talking like 40 years ago, but I still can remember the lyrics, right? So it's a trick to think that you can be around stuff, that you can listen to stuff and it not have an impact, because your subconscious mind is not a judger, right? It just is taking in information and taking it in. And so this is why a lot of people have trauma with domestic violence or things that they might have witnessed and seen, whether they were actively engaged in it or not. It still went to their subconscious mind. It was something that they remembered. And so certain things can trigger that other people may not even be aware of, because they are still a victim, even though they might not have directly been a victim. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm not a doctor. This is just me observing and going through my own journey of some of the traumas that really can impact our lives. So that is all that I have for today. I tell you, 30 minutes uh, goes by quickly, and it's amazing when you're the only one talking. But I have really enjoyed these books that I've discussed today, and look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow. So join me, same time, same place, 5 a.m. here, live in person. Make today a beautiful day, and remember to smile. Smile is the acronym. That's something we should daily check in, right? Remember to smile, which is sleep, mood, inner voice, laughter, and energy. So, those are some things that we can be mindful of in our daily routine. So thank you guys so much for watching.